Hello, my name is Captain Matthew Dunn from the Services Directorate of AFPC, and I'm going to be giving the Services Transformation Program Management Review briefing today. Feel free to contact me via email or my phone list that's going to be provided if you have additional questions on this briefing. Why transform? Why services transformation now? Looking at the services model, the way we've been delivering our products and services to airmen, recognized corporately that there was a need to change how we're delivering our services to the bases. We've received manpower cuts in FY12 where we lost over 500 APF positions, which impacted our squadrons and our ability to provide services for the airmen and their families. We've also noticed a large decrease in population. In the 1980s, we had over 600,000 people on active duty. This year, we have about 330,000 active duty airmen, but we're still sized for the same 600,000 person force. We have a lot more facilities and capacity than we do have airmen living on base. And we've seen a shift in the way airmen live nowadays versus how it used to be. There's been a shift over the years for airmen to live off base in the community. And right now, about 75% of our airmen live off base in the CONUS installations. So a lot of our airmen are living off base, and they're getting a lot of their services from outside the community. So we knew we had to change some of our model. And also there's some lifestyle changes. With the high ops tempo and the high deployment rate, a lot of airmen, when they're off work, a lot of times they just want to spend time with their family or away from the base. So sometimes it's a little more difficult to bring them back with high ops tempo and the deployments and the change in life. It's just been a change in the shift of the way airmen seek to recreate. And also just time. With exercises, deployments, airmen and their families are really busy. So we're looking at how we can make our services more user-friendly, get them to them when they want them and when they need them so that they can continue to go. What we set out to do initially, we started out working with AFPC services, half A1S, as well as our industry hospitality consultants and MatchCom representatives to look at 71 bases, more of a snapshot of a desktop business analysis, looking at trends in customer satisfaction, headcount, sales, financials, looking at the assets, age of the inventory, and really doing a full review of our programs across the Air Force to include looking at our activities, as you can see from this slide. You have two columns. You have the building column and the program column, and then off to the left you have the programs for fitness, child development center, etc. Under the building, you'll see the codes K, D, and R. So the recommendation being K would be to keep the building. The R would be to repurpose it, maybe utilize it slightly different, which we'll talk about later, or D, potentially divest the building. Looking at the program, it was a similar concept. Keep the program as is, maybe modify it, tweak it to meet the current needs of the base, or possibly divest of that program and focus your assets on a different area that are getting more utilization. So that's how the desktop plans looked at the businesses on base. And the study also reviewed the competitive set to see how many like competitors were in the local area, what was the population in the community, and then looking at within a 10, a 20, and a 30-mile radius, how many fitness centers are nearby, how many golf courses are nearby, to see what's the impact on the installation of those programs so that, if you didn't have a program on base, what's the likelihood that the airmen could find an alternative source off base, or if they live off base, what alternatives do they have that they're currently utilizing instead of our programs? After we did the desktop business review, we went in and after Corona had instruction to do services transformation visits where the team of services from AFPC, half A1S, as well as hospitality consultants and architects actually went in and evaluated their desktop business plans at 8 installations for the first round. You can see Andrews, F.E. Warren, Scott, Tinker, Luke, Moody, Spangdahlem, Cannon were the first round of visits that we completed. When the team went to the installations, they did an advanced information request looking at all the services facilities programs, analyzing, for instance, in golf, rounds played, looking at food sales, looking at inventory sales, customer satisfaction surveys, the business, the profitability of the operation, as well as getting information on the competitive market from the managers, how many golf courses are in a 20 to 30 mile radius, what's available in the local community. So that before the team of consultants, AFPC, SV experts, and half A1S staff get to the base, they already have a good snapshot. They have the financials, customer service satisfactions. They know a good bit about the market. And then they spend time with a full week doing an assessment of the services programs. They meet with FSS leadership, civil engineering leadership, group and wing leadership to really get a good assessment of the buildings, the programs, the activities, meet with the staff, the managers, and the customers doing focus groups to see how our facilities are currently meeting what the demand is on the airmen. And by doing this deep dive, really get a chance to validate and modify some of the business plans and to look to see what we're offering if that's meeting the airmen's need. And this study helped to provide the recommendations for what the bases could do to possibly modify their plans to better serve the airmen and be more profitable as well. In this initiative, we developed a lot of new programs and concepts, which we'll get into shortly, developed some new base prototypes, and recommended some enterprise-level changes, which we'll get into. And right now, we're in the process of just completing the round 2 visits, with Whiteman Air Force Base being our last visit that's going to happen in July. Going into the next slide, you can see that we have a map of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. And you can see the rings with the population. For example, the 1,000 light blue population next to the 1,100 kind of darker purple population. That's showing you the clusters of where the airmen and their families are during the day and at night, so that you can see where our activities are located based on what are the high traffic, high throughput areas of the base, so that we can look at ensuring our activities are placed in those key nodes to better serve our airmen. And this is critical as we get into some of the concepts later to understanding the geography of the base to make sure that our activities are where they need to be. A lot of times the way our activities are is we will gain assets from CE as they come available and they'll become new operations. So sometimes an ITT operation or an outdoor rec, it might be on a remote side of the base that doesn't get a lot of traffic. So if we have an open facility in one of these high traffic areas, we could look at moving that facility to that location to really make it easier for the airmen and their families to get to. Going into this next slide, we're looking at some of the different types of initiatives we came up with through Services Transformation. The Community Commons event, we're going to touch on that and event centers a little bit later. But this ITT and Services Concierge partnership with the Exchange, it's been a great initiative. We're going to be launching this 17 August at 6 locations. It's going to be RAF Lakenheath, Luke, Patrick, Tinker, Little Rock, and Keesler. This is going to put the ITT operation in those exchanges to really maximize on the exchange foot traffic, better serve our customers with convenience one-stop shopping. And in our studies, what we've seen is in our current 6 test locations, we're serving anywhere from 470 to just over 4,000 customers a month. And by co-locating within the exchange, we're going to be seeing thousands of customers pass our kiosk and our storefront locations on a daily basis. So we really got the opportunity to better serve airmen in these locations. And we're going to be providing pager systems so that if we're busy, we can give the customer the pager. They can continue to visit the food court and the exchange, possibly make some purchases in there, be a one-stop shop for their family, which increases the exchange dividend, which rolls back into our services programs. And then we page them whenever we're ready so that we can help serve that guest. And with this kiosk in this location here, we're also going to be able to cross-market our other services activities. So you can be promoting your fitness events, your outdoor rec events, your trips. You can also have a concierge book where you're showing your hours of operation. So you can really use this as a really voice of your FSS. It's really maximizing on that foot traffic and just help champion your programs to better serve the guest. The information learning centers, we're going to touch on that. That's really looking at the library and making it a smaller, more scaled down version. You still have all the key Chief of Staff of the Air Force reading list, focus on internet and technology, but just streamlining some of the books, making it more of a Barnes & Noble type feel where you have some open rooms, comfortable seating areas. You can do meeting space in there. So just make it a little more user-friendly to what the airmen are wanting, as well as keeping that child and the kid reading rooms and still meeting all the needs of our airmen with that. The community programmer and food and beverage management positions, those are some position descriptions that we're working with to help align under the services transformation. The food and beverage management position would be that one key POC to kind of oversee all the food and beverage ops on the base to ensure that they're not competing with each other, that we're offering a good variety of programming. You get that one focal point for food, just like you do at a really nice hotel or a nice large operation. You have that food and beverage director that ensures that the programs are not competing with each other, but they're complementing each other, and you have that expert leading that food and beverage platform. The community programmer position really ties into looking at the space on base, providing a single POC for services, programming, and activity on an installation, that this person can really tie in together all the programs, be that belly button, to ensure we're maximizing facility use and non-facility use, looking at partnerships with the local community to see what activities are off base that we can also offer to our airmen that are living off base. So this person can really be an outreach to the airmen and their families and just be a great quality of life boost. And then the last initiative on this slide is the fitness access, commonly referred to as a 24-hour fitness. We've tested this at 6 bases: Joint Base Andrews, F.E. Warren, Tinker, Scott, Fairchild, and Little Rock. And the first 3 months we've had great usage. We had about 8,300 in March, 8,500 in April, and 9,400 in May. So the usage has been outstanding. And what this does is it takes a fitness center that's open, business as normal during the day, still staffed, still manned, but after hours, we've installed security cameras. We've got an entry access system that reads the barcode on the back of your common access card for military dependents, retirees. It just reads that barcode on the back. And once a user's registered, that will unlock their door so that they can go in and work out after hours. But an important piece of this test is that fitness centers were mandated by DOTI to staff our fitness centers with 2 people at all times unless it's remote isolated types of locations. So we had to go to OSD and SAF-MR to get permission to test this at these 6 locations. So currently we're not allowed to do any further expanding on this initiative until we have a chance to complete the test, show the numbers to our senior leadership, and see if this is an initiative that we can try to move forward Air Force-wide or look at expanding. But at this time, we currently can't expand it to other locations. And the cost for that program was about $30,000 per installation, and it's been very well received. Looking at our next slide, we're doing a deep dive on the community commons concept to give you an idea. What this is looking at doing is, traditionally, a services squadron, years ago, you'd have outdoor rec in one location, ITT in one location, a library on one piece of the base, fitness centers, arts and crafts, everything's kind of all over the base. Some FSS squadrons have consolidated combined activities, put them under one roof. But this commons approach looks at taking several of our services activities, consolidating them under one roof in one of those high throughput areas that we showed you earlier on those rings to really maximize service to the airmen and their families, putting it in a high demand area, mixing it with some food and beverage type operations, having some coffee, some snacks, having Wi-Fi in there, setting up some study rooms, some informal meeting spaces, really being adaptable, similar to a student union or one of those operations you've seen at a lot of colleges. So it's really a way to try to maximize putting multiple activities under one roof and getting those synergies so that we can better serve our airmen. And we're excited about testing these concepts. Going into the next slide, we're going to be talking about the Air Force Community Partnership Initiative. This is actually a SAF IEI initiative, but we're working with them to look at services activities. And what this Air Force Community Partnership Initiative is, it started with looking at public-public and public-private partnerships, which is what the P4 acronym is. And what's going on is the Air Force is looking at developing a framework which installations and public and private sector community leaders can develop ways to create and leverage capabilities and resources to help reduce cost and risk by finding shared value. With the current budgetary constraints, the DoD and its installations and community partners are seeking ways to reevaluate the way they do business and seek alternatives to the status quo. So as budgetary deficits continue to decrease, Air Force is exploring alternative ways to support its mission while maintaining quality of life programs for airmen and their families. So one approach is this partnership initiative where you're looking at partnering with a local community to see if you have excess capacity on an installation or possibly excess capacity in the local community and work in a partnership so you can better serve each other. Currently, there's 19 prototype installations that are involved in this test and 7 MAGCOMs. And some of the things that are initially being looked at were, shared utilities, water services, education, facility maintenance, fire, police, and we'll go into some more of those later. But important foot stomp is that close participation between the DoD and community is crucial in this era of austerity. So it's going to benefit both the community and the base by working these partnerships to maximize and capitalize on each other's strengths. And looking at this next slide, we actually give some examples of the P4 initiative or the Air Force Community Partnership Initiative. This is something that a lot of guard bases have done years ago because they don't have that full-time active duty staff on the base. They might not have been able to operate a dining facility all week long. So on the weekends, they'd have to have alternatives. Same with libraries. There might not have been a robust library on that installation. So they'd had to work a partnership to serve their airmen with the community. One of the great case studies is Presidio in Monterey. They had a partnership with SATCOM and Camp Roberts where the city actually provided road work, services to include parking lots, fence, facilities maintenance, and they handled all their work orders to the tune of about $18,500 a year. And it's been a large operation where they had 160 facilities and 24 facilities in Monterey and 24 in Camp Roberts. And the city's actually dedicated 38 full-time employees to this venture, and they're getting a 99.6% completion rate on their work orders. So the city's benefiting from them full-time employees. So instead of contracting it out, there's full-time employees that are taking care of this and reducing the cost of the installation. And by partnering with Fire, they were able to save $1.5 million a year, or just shy of, with this partnership. Some of the other things we list up there are the sharing of softball fields where installation had excess capacity, the city had excess funding, so they provided the lights and the signage, and the base allowed the city to use those softball fields. So it's really a win-win partnership. A couple of the other ones that have happened recently, in 2008, there was an enhanced use lease at Nellis that resulted in delivery of a new $25 million fitness center and $10.8 million for reclamated water and supply infrastructure. Hill cited was a more recent example, assets in Falcon Hill National Aerospace Research Park. In return, the partners provide Air Force with new energy, efficient administrative facilities, and ensure that all the new development is fully compatible with the flying missions to help improve transportation and infrastructure on the base. So looking at these partnerships from a services standpoint, you're looking at if there's, extra capacity maybe on your golf course, or if there's extra capacity with your fields and there's excess need in the community, or if the community has those needs that you can partnership. The same was in libraries. So it's a relationship between services and the SAF IE office doing some of these Air Force Community Partnership initiatives. And that concludes the brief for today.